All right, a Fox News alert. The Trump administration now hitting back against the North Korean regime after their ballistic missile launch from earlier this week, vowing stiff consequences for this latest provocation. So what does President Trump need to do now to truly counter this threat? Here now to weigh in is Hudson Institute senior fellow Rebeccah Heinrichs. Rebeccah, thanks so much for coming on this morning. You know, this is a continuing issue that I don't think anybody has a really good answer to in this situation. What should the president do at this point?
Well, he needs to stay the course. You know, we've got this pressure campaign, and the Trump administration has had some success in ratcheting up the pressure, in isolating the regime. You know, whenever he came in to the White House, everybody said that, you know, North Korea couldn't be sanctioned any further, but he has successfully been able to get 20 countries to curtail or cut off trade, and the North Koreans are starting to really feel it.
Yeah.
But at this point, and we've talked about this before, he really needs to start turning his focus onto China more. Nikki Haley had some tough words for China, saying China now has to cut off oil completely from North Korea in order to finally force Kim to stop these tests and finally come to the negotiating table to talk about slowing back and rolling back his nuclear missile program.
Well, I mean, we saw that guy that defected come out. He had worms inside of him and everything else. You see an indication there of what it's like to live there. At what point will that country turn on him? At what point does the misery get so strong that the revolution begins? Because these people have got to know that, I mean, maybe they don't know how bad they're living.
It's very difficult to get information into North Korea, but when that young defector actually made it to South Korea, there were some reports indicating that the South Koreans were blasting that information into North Korea to try to get other people to hear. And we have seen an uptick, a serious uptick, in the number of fishermen that are ending up in the coast of Japan, and because there's you know, a major food problem there in North Korea. We don't know necessarily if they're defecting, but they're definitely in dire situation. They're looking for food. They're fishermen. Yeah. So the sanctions are biting, but again, this is going to have to come down to China, and the American people have to be prepared for an increase in price of goods if the Trump administration is finally going to do the next thing, which is going to be sanctioning Chinese banks, because we got to use everything on the spectrum before we use military force, and I do think that is a credible option for this American administration. Yeah,
they certainly are getting the help from China, and we're just in this standoff now, which we've been in so many times, where they're just waiting to get paid off to not do anything wrong, and it's holding the world hostage in this situation, and it's really disgusting. Let's look at these flight times here. This is if North Korea could successfully re-enter an intercontinental ballistic missile, which I think they have the range now, but the problem for them is going to be getting it back into the atmosphere. But look at these times to get to the United States. L.A. about 33 minutes, Chicago 37, 38, only a minute longer to get to New York City than Chicago. That's if they fire off a missile. That's how long it takes to get here a nuclear warhead. In that amount of time, you know, the administration and the Defense Department is going to try and shoot that thing down. But that really just gives you the reality of the situation here. Would you trust our systems to be able to take care of that threat if they fired first?
That's a great question. The Obama administration actually cut that particular missile defense program you're talking about, the ground-based mid-course defense system, cut that missile defense program in half in the first couple years in office. And so it cut the number, the Obama administration cut the number of interceptors that we had, that we were going to deploy there. And then whenever they realized that North Korea was increasing the tempo of its missile tests, you know, tried to quickly get those interceptors deployed again. But we are behind. The system is good. It's not as good as it could be, and that is in large part due to the lack of attention to it from the previous administration. So, you know, the Trump administration is not only trying to squeeze North Korea, but we have got to invest in, and quickly, our missile defense systems to provide adequate and robust protection of the American people. Again, the North Korea is the aggressor here. The President Trump's rhetoric is not the problem. A lot of people are now turning to President Trump and blaming him, but North Korea is the aggressor. This has been a long time coming, and now we're just trying to you know, really at the 11th hour here, get it under control.
Yeah. Well, President Obama thought our military was too inflated. Our current president clearly does not. So hopefully we can get things back in order here. Rebeccah Heinrichs, thank you so much for coming on this morning. Your expertise is very much appreciated.
Thank you.